Welcome to this explainer. We're going to unpack the deeply hidden and honestly fascinating history behind one of humanity's absolute most common gestures. I mean, it's an action you've seen thousands of times, right? But almost nobody knows it actually stems from a terrifying 4,000-year-old magical ritual.
So let's just dive right in. Picture a baseball game during the national anthem, or maybe a super solemn courtroom pledge. Why exactly do we physically press our hands to our chests to prove we're telling the truth? Think about it for a second. Unlike a salute, which, merely signals hierarchy, or a handshake that signals mutual agreement, this hand-on-chest gesture makes a highly specific, visceral claim. It boldly says that my words originate from the exact same place as my life. To answer how all this started, we'll trace the privatization of human conscience across 5 distinct eras. We'll look at Egypt's moral archive, Rome and the rational soul, Renaissance performative sincerity, the modern hollow reflex, and finally, reading real truth today. Looking at this 4,000-year roadmap, we're going to see exactly how a life-or-death magical ritual in the ancient world slowly devolved into an everyday, almost thoughtless modern reflex. It's a profound psychological shift that literally tracks the entire history of human trust. Part 1. Egypt's moral archive, the ultimate contract. We start our journey back in ancient Egypt, where placing a hand over the chest was the absolute ultimate, nonverbal, preto-legal contract. You see, the ancient Egyptians didn't just look at the heart as some biological blood pump. No, they called it the jib, and it was the literal seat of your consciousness, your memory, and your moral character. Basically, it was your ancient hard drive. And during the post-mortem weighing of the heart ceremony, this jib was placed on a cosmic scale against Ma'at's feather of truth. The kicker here? The heart could not lie, because it was the absolute sum of your truth. It was fully expected not to betray its owner in the afterlife. Which brings us to this incredible perspective. May my heart speak for me on earth as it will before Osiris. Now, when an Egyptian official placed a hand over their chest while swearing loyalty to a pharaoh, they weren't just trying to be sincere in the moment. They were ritually invoking divine post-mortem judgment. They were legally binding their speaker across death itself. The gesture meant, quite literally, your afterlife was on the line. No pressure, right?
Moving on to Part 2, Rome and the rational soul. Civic technology. Let's fast forward to the classical era and see how this builds into a practical, civic tool during the Roman Empire.
So the crucial point here is the Stoic concept of voluntas. Rome basically took this gesture out of the realm of mystical judgment and turned it into a highly practical civic technology. In Stoic philosophy, personal honor resided in the voluntas, which is the rational will, and they believed this was located right there in the chest. Now, while they used a raised right hand for military oaths, placing the hand on the chest was used for civilian contexts of personal allegiance, like a client to a patron. Placing a hand on your chest in Rome meant you weren't being coerced by some external force. You were bound by your own internal, rational soul.
And the Romans took this so incredibly seriously that betrayers of oaths were purposely never depicted touching their hearts. You'll notice the mark of betrayal was portrayed visually with empty hands or hands covering the face. This visually reinforced the profound, unbreakable connection between touching the chest and possessing genuine honor.
Part 3. Renaissance performative sincerity, a crucial pivot. By the 14th century, the gesture makes a really crucial pivot, as rising nation-states suddenly needed a way to conduct diplomacy without those medieval religious guarantees.
This introduces us to a truly fascinating concept, codified in 1528 by Castiglione called sprezzerata. Renaissance courtiers had this entirely new problem. They needed to signal trust between rival princes without relying on medieval religious terror. So when a diplomat swore upon his honor with a hand to his breast, he was performing sprezzerata. He was making the performance of interior conviction appear completely effortless. It became a social signal to a third party. Essentially, the gesture was saying, hey, you cannot see my heart, but I am showing you exactly where it would be if trust were visible. And, if I wasn't just trying to secure a highly lucrative trade deal. It's a massive, massive pivot from a sacred ritual binding to a performative social signal.
Bringing us to Part 4, the modern hollow reflex, a fossilized gesture. Now we arrive at the present day, where this one sacred gesture has experienced a complete collapse of its original architecture.
When we casually place our hand over our heart today, 3 major things are totally missing.
First up, there's no magical consequence. Instead of your heart literally testifying in a magical judgment, modern perjury just gets you fines or jail time. Second, there's no audience of gods. We're witnessed by other everyday citizens, not divine beings like Jupiter or Osiris. And third, there is no reciprocal obligation. In the Renaissance, a diplomat expected the other party to mirror the gesture. Today, our usage is almost entirely one-sided. The gesture itself just carries absolutely no magical weight anymore.
If we compare the two directly, the ancient ritual was built entirely on gods, magic, and reciprocity. Today's reflex? No gods, no magic, and completely unilateral. What we are witnessing across history here is the total privatization of conscience. What used to be public and judged by gods is now, well, it's just a nostalgic tick. We perform it mostly because we've seen other people perform it, and we vaguely sense that it's supposed to mean something about inner conviction.
Part 5. Reading Real Truth Today. Decoding Signals. Which begs a really important question. Why does a 4,000-year-old ritual that completely forgot its own theology still survive in our modern society?
It actually persists for a very deeply human reason, which is captured perfectly right here. We desperately want to believe that sincerity can still be shown, even if it can no longer be proven. When you see that hand over the chest at a hearing today, you're watching a fossilized gesture. It's searching for its lost world of oaths and hearts that actually remember. It persists simply because we still deeply, fundamentally crave a way to physically signal truth to one another.
So if the hand on the heart is just historical residue at this point, how do we actually read truth today? Well, we have to move past ancient symbolism and look at modern behavioral analysis. Experts like Jonathan Choufany have spent over a decade decoding the silent signals that words so often conceal. If you want to learn how to accurately read unspoken deceptions and allegiances in the modern world, you can reach out to him directly at the number provided.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If our most trusted and ancient gestures, like the hand on the heart, have truly lost their binding meaning and become just hollow echoes of history, what silent signals are you missing every single day? What unspoken truths and deceptions are happening right in front of you that you simply aren't seeing? Thank you for exploring this with me on this explainer. Keep observing and keep questioning.